Guys, here's a fun Music Monday story. So this is from Billboard. Billboard. I called it Billboard. This is from Billboard. Billboard. Bernie Sanders musician supporters largely sit out of the Biden campaign so far. They don't want to play for Joe Biden. Even John Kerry had a bunch of musicians supporting him. Joe Biden can't even get that. He can't even get musicians, like big name musicians who was like, well, it's this guy or Trump. And even they're just like, we were excited about Bernie, but dude, come on. Bernie Sanders musician supporters largely sitting out of Biden campaign so far. In two progressive populist campaigns for president, Sanders has amassed more pop star supporters than any political candidate since Barack Obama in 2012, including Ariana Grande, Jack White, The Strokes, Halsey, Dua Lipa, Public Enemy, Killer Mike of Run the Jewels. Billboard reached out to nearly 20 high-profile Sanders backers in the music world, asking to talk about whether they'd shift support to Biden, and received quick declines or no responses. Even though the Vermont senator had suspended his campaign and endorsed Biden a month earlier. Complicating Sanders' loving artist's enthusiasm for Biden is Tara Reid's recent sexual harassment allegations. This article gets it wrong. It's a sexual assault allegation, Billboard. And I get it. I'm not trying. Billboard is not a political outlet. All right. I get it. They don't do politics. They're a music outlet. That's what they do. You know, they don't really tread in these waters often. I understand that. But it's a sexual assault allegation. It's not a sexual harassment allegation. It's a sexual assault allegation. I am sure a lot of Bernie lovers are bummed and keeping it close. A rep for one of the Sanders supporters said in an email. Generally speaking, artists lean progressive. And many say they can't stomach the thought of a centrist, especially one with Me Too issues, in the Oval Office. Strange Ranger, a Philadelphia indie rock band, released a 20-track multi-artist compilation to raise money for Sanders' campaign in January and plan a follow-up, but will change the beneficiary to a social justice group Groundswell Fund rather than the presumptive Democratic nominee. Drummer Nathan Tucker and singer Isaac Elger don't plan to campaign or fundraise for Biden and will support progressive down-ballot candidates instead. I'm going to hold my nose. So here's what the one of the members of the band says. I'm going to hold my nose and vote for Biden, but I'm not inspired by Joe Biden. I don't know who is. And you know what I like about their choice of where they're raising money? I like the fact that they were raising money for Bernie, and now they're raising money for a cause. And that's the lesson I've learned over the past 4 years. Where, you know, I've always been a cause guy, way over a candidate guy. But now more than ever, like that's the way to be. That now more than ever, it's like, because when a candidate does something that you don't want them to do, like suspend their campaign or make an endorsement, what can you do? You can't do anything. And any effort you've given that candidate, no matter who they are, it's just over. It's over. Whereas with a cause, well, you have a say, don't you? You have a say. First of all, it's a cause you already support and believe in. And the organization pursuing the cause, you have a say in how they do things too. Because the organization will have to respond to you if you have a complaint or an issue or something you want them to take more seriously, et cetera, et cetera. Because the cause isn't just going to go away. The organization isn't just going to go away. If you give to an organization like Sunrise or Fight for the Future, or in this case, what's it called? Groundswell Fund. So I'm not familiar with Groundswell Fund, actually, full disclaimer. I'm not familiar with what that is. So, you know, I can't speak to that. But going more broadly, I can't speak to. I think it's great that instead of just being like, well, I guess we're going to give all this energy to Biden now. Instead of doing that, they're saying, we're going to give the money next time to a cause instead of a candidate. That's the way to be. That's the way to be. It's just a no-brainer, as Melissa Etheridge, who backs Senator Elizabeth Warren. So Melissa Etheridge is for Biden. And actor-singer Billy Porter is more blunt. Biden is my candidate because there is no other candidate, period, he says. We must play the game we're in. And the game we're in, there's a monster in the White House who needs to get out, and every one of his cronies need to get out, period. Y'all took your toys and went home when Bernie wasn't the candidate last time, and that's why we lost. Line up and fix it. I'm sorry that Billy Porter doesn't understand what happened in 2016. I'm sorry to hear that Billy Porter doesn't understand that. Because that's not what happened in 2016. You know who's responsible for Hillary Clinton not winning in 20? And I can't believe people are still rehashing this. I can't believe it's unbelievable. The reason Hillary Clinton is not president is because of Hillary Clinton. And the reason Trump is in the White House is because of the DNC and Hillary Clinton. Because they kneecapped the guy who would have beat Trump. And instead, they ran the least likable candidate, the only candidate less likable than Trump. And it was an unpopularity contest until the bitter end, because guess what? The person with the most votes still lost the election. Still lost the election. Was so unpopular, couldn't beat Trump with the Electoral College. And because we have the Electoral College, which, by the way, is intended to appease slave owners. That's why it exists in the first place. Donald Trump is president. If your anger is with the voters, your anger is misdirected. If your anger is with somebody's decision, no matter how they voted, by the way, doesn't matter how they voted, whether they held their nose and voted for, whoever, whether they didn't, or whether they, voted third party, whether they wrote in somebody, whether they picked the lesser two evils, no matter what it is, whether they didn't vote at all. If your anger is with the voter, your anger's misdirected. Your anger should be at the system. Your anger should be at the system that keeps spewing out these utterly repulsive choices and says to the American people, pick one or you're the problem. Maybe the game's the problem. Billy Porter is calling it a game. We must play the game. Maybe we need a different game, Billy. Maybe it's time to try to get a new game going, because this game is rigged. When a game's rigged, you don't keep playing the same game over and over again. You say we need a new game. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. What's that the definition of? But anyway, even like every Democrat, they constantly get like a ton of musicians that'll play for them. And it's not because, and it's just because a lot of people are conditioned that it's like there's a Republican and a Democrat and make your choice. So I don't begrudge the musicians. I think a lot of times it's not like these musicians are supporting these candidates because they're like neoliberalism, rah, rah, rah. They're supporting them because they're like, well, Donald Trump's terrible. But even now, Biden can't even get that. You know what I mean? Like, he can't even get that. That's how uninspired people are by this candidate. I have seen one Biden sign. It was actually kind of funny. I was going to take a picture of it, but I just wasn't in the mood because I was going for a run and I just wanted politics out of my mind completely. You know what I mean? But in my neighborhood, while the primary was still happening, there were Bernie Sanders signs everywhere. There were every 5 feet, there was a Bernie Sanders sign. And I did not see one Joe Biden sign ever. And that's not an embellishment. I literally saw none. And for the first time, the other day, I was going for a run and I saw one Joe Biden sign. And it was this tiny sign in a window on this sad looking building that looked like it was closed down. Like this building, it looked like there was nothing going on in this building. I don't know what it is. And I saw this sad, sorry Joe Biden sign that was just, if I run past it again, I forget what street it was on, but if I run past it again, I will take a photo. And it was just such a sad, sorry state of affairs. And you couldn't write a satire of this stuff with just how uninspiring Joe Biden is how ridiculous his campaign is thus far and continues to be, because he just disappears. He just disappears from the public spotlight constantly. Why does he do that? Because his campaign knows he can't raise his poll numbers. He's already lashed out at multiple voters, multiple people asking questions. If he does that during the general on the campaign trail, you think Trump's going to give him a pass? Trump's going to destroy him every single time. Look at the ad they made about Nancy Pelosi's ice cream stunt. Look at the ad Trump made over that. If Biden flips out on a voter, which you know he's going to do again, you think Trump's not going to run with that? So when Biden loses to Trump, and again, the only reason there's a minuscule of doubt in my mind is because of this pandemic. You never know what could happen in a pandemic. You never know what can happen. We could be in a completely different place a month from now. But as it stands right now, I think there is about a 5% chance that Biden beats Trump. I think there's a 95% chance Biden loses to Trump. And when he does, it's not the fault of progressives. It's not the fault of people who voted third party. It's not the fault of people who voted for one or the other candidate. It's the fault of the system. It's the fault of the DNC. It's the fault of the Electoral College. It's the fault of gerrymandering. It's the fault of a system where you have a two-party duopoly where both parties are owned by Wall Street. And that has enabled our country's Overton window to shift so far to the right that the camera needs to zoom out as far as it can go. Do you ever take a minute to realize how fringe right-wing the United States is? Think about it this way. There is a political party in the United States that decided it was a safer bet to run a guy who sounds like he has dementia, and there's a chance he does, and has a rape allegation. They decided that guy was a safer bet than the guy who just wants to give everybody health care. And the political party that decided that isn't even considered the right-wing party. Let that sink in. The party who said we'd rather have a guy with a sexual assault allegation than a guy who wants to give people health care. That's not even the most conservative option in the United States. I don't even think that's something the Tories would do over in the UK, which the Tories are their right-wing party. I think if the Tories said, so, well, this one guy just wants to make sure that the NHS isn't completely dismantled. This other guy has a sexual assault allegation. I don't think they'd go with the guy. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe they would, but it's unbelievable. So Biden might have such a hard time getting musicians. He might feel like a Republican, which is appropriate because Joe Biden is a Republican.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and